On Garrett Podcasting, in my heart of hearts, this is the city I love. New York City is the city I love. And I could not help but feel terrible that a 22-year-old cop was shot and killed in cold blood this past weekend, and I believe Jason Rivera's name, and his colleague was seriously injured on a house call that was part of an ambush. The killer has been dead now. He died today. I remember when Mayor de Blasio was tested his first year near the end of his first full year. Officers Ramos and Liu had been shot in cold blood in their police car by a murderer. You could call him mental. He was a murderer. And what changes did Mayor de Blasio make after that shooting, after being tested? He actually made no changes that I could think of. In fact, he pulled more police off the streets as the years went on. How is Mayor Eric Adams dealing with this test of the last 3 weeks, his first 3 weeks in office? Well, you might have heard this on AM 970 The Answer's Power Hour with Arthur Idala.
In my 3 weeks as your mayor, I have been with an officer who was shot in the head as he slept in his own car. I have met with the mother of a 19-year-old girl who was killed as she worked the night shift in East Harlem. I have been at the bedside of a police officer who was shot by a 16-year-old as they struggled for a gun. I have held hands and prayed with her mother. That 11-month-old baby was shot in the head by gunmen who didn't care where those bullets went.
He recognizes that he's been tested very early on. Cops turning their back on him at the funeral of Jason Rivera.
NYPD officer Jason Rivera was killed in the line of duty that Friday night, doing what he swore an oath to do: protect the people of this city. We pray for him, his family, as well as for his partner, Officer Wilbert Mora, who remains in the hospital.
And they are on top of that as a news source for sure, monitoring his colleagues' situation as well, his health as well. But this mayor, wow, we have a mayor who understands this cannot go on.
We will ramp up enforcement, deploy more officers on the streets and in the subways, and get our courts at full capacity. And we will invest in those longer-term preventions as well, fixing our broken schools, supporting our unhoused New Yorkers, improving access to mental health services, and changing our laws.
I feel hopeful listening to this change. You know why? Because he's actually making changes after 3 weeks of utter hell. An 11-month-old jacket, bloodstained. I could talk about the incredible sports weekend that was the divisional round. But I'm not going to. Because the city is at stake, our lives are at stake here in New York, and we finally have a mayor after 8 years of kind of kicking the can down the road almost every chance when he could have been a hero of sorts to fix things. He just mumbled through, did Mayor de Blasio. We finally have a mayor. And I'm very excited about that.
We will not surrender our city to the violent few. We're going to go back, and we won't go back to the bad old days. We're going to get trigger pullers off the streets and guns out of their hands.
And I hope arrests could be made and that bail reform could just disappear. If anything, this weekend's horrific shooting and killing of a 22-year-old should bring us together that cops need to be protected. If anything, this shooting should bring a city together to say, hey, we're not safe. We have to bring cops back on the streets. Not less. And if anything, this weekend should prove that the status quo just is not working anymore. So I'm proud that Mayor Adams, is stepping up and probably looking in the face of BLM and saying, you will not win this. You want us to be weaker on protecting our city, we will not be there. And yes, he has the background as a cop, so he knows where all of this is coming from, where the need to be protected is coming from, because he's been there. But I cannot say Mayor de Blasio not having that experience should be an excuse. I cannot say Mayor de Blasio's lack of experience in the NYPD is an excuse. You chose to run and lead the city, and you almost ran us into the ground. Thank God your 8 years are up. I don't understand how you could be such a good person, a good guy to talk to off mic, but when you're on mic, you say the dumbest things, you have the dumbest policies, you take police off the streets in the moment when they're getting watered down, in a moment when there was an assassination in cold blood. And you had cops turn their back on you at the funeral of Ramos and Lou. You know who was a better man that day? Believe it or not, now President Joe Biden. He came to New York as vice president and addressed the funeral and said that they were good cops. And those days have been gone from the majority of the Democratic Party and from this city. But regular New Yorkers maybe got a wake-up call that things were that bad. We thought the for lease signs, we thought the for sale signs even, we thought the emptied out stores, the closed down places, the pandemic's effects were bad. Then we see just how bad law and crime has been with the spree of shootings over the last 3 weeks. And finally, we have a mayor who will not stand for it. And I stand with him in his defense of New York City. A little more from Mayor Adams today.
From City Hall to our state legislatures, to the halls of Congress, we need everyone to come together in common cause. We need help. We need resources. We need backup.
And doesn't that sound like a man who's been in uniform? We need backup. How many times have these NYPD officers had to call for backup? The mayor prior, after the shooting of and killing of officers Ramos and Lou, did nothing to rally the NYPD. Finally, we have someone who's doing something. And for where we're at right now in New York, that's all we can ask for, is a mayor to do something. Oh, I feel relieved that this mayor is awake, that this mayor isn't bowing down to causes that might actually elect him. I believe Mayor de Blasio did not react sometimes because he was afraid the far left wouldn't reelect him. But this mayor standing in the face of the anti-cop rhetoric and saying, no, we're putting plainclothes back on the streets. We're doing things to combat this. We're doing the backup needed to fix this city. And if you don't like it, tough luck. Because he's the man now. He's a mayor now. It's not just a title when you become the mayor of New York. It's an obligation. It's a duty. It's a tradition. And for the last 8 years, the mayor of New York has looked more like a buffoon than an actual mayor. So today, on January 24th, 24 days, well, really 23, since becoming the mayor, he's speaking up and speaking out, and he's doing something. And we all know something with regards to this crime is better than nothing. So keep up the work, Mayor Adams. Keep up the pressure. Keep saying what you're saying and back it up with the actions of keeping our city safe. And you will fully deserve and earn the title as Mayor of New York. I'm Alexander Garrett. Yeah, we'll get to the playoff breakdown in a couple of days. I don't know when, but we'll get there. But for now, I couldn't help but discuss this on my very podcast, Alex Garrett Podcasting. Cuts provided by Nick Malone, my colleague at AM 970 The Answer. We'll be back here on Alex Garrett Podcasting as maybe a turnaround is happening for the better in our city of New York.